This used to be a free country, you communists. You're a communist.
I'm a communist. I'm a communist, yeah. What are you, a moron? Go away.
Must be, yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
Go away. You take photos to put onto websites to incite people to hurt people.
No, that's what your people do.
To incite people to
That's what
violence. No, we don't.
I disagree with
You
violence.
don't take photographs of me.
Off you go.
Why? Or what?
I don't care, mate.
Okay, don't worry. Hello, mate. Let the lady through. Come on, you thugs.
Off you go. I know what you want to do, be a martyr. Just go out the road.
Martin, just doing a bit of filming.
Just go out the road, right? Just go out the road.
You'd like to give us an interview, Cole?
National front, right? Yeah, fine, it's national front. Do whatever you do. The anti-army people tonight, right? Tony Martin, who's banned from Facebook, who asked you governor.
How do you feel about the Labour Party wanting to replace the white working class?
Oh, you are National Front, aren't you?
That's right, yeah.
You're a fascist, you don't talk to.
Well, no, I'm not actually, but I was just willing to ask you a question.
I don't talk to Nazis, mate. So
Okay, fair enough. Hi everyone, thanks for coming on. It's good to it's good to see everyone. I can't see anyone, but it's good to see people in the comments and to know that people's on there. So yeah, so thanks for coming on. Yeah, a couple of things today. I did a poll during the week on, well, I say during the week, over the past couple of days. I did a poll to see after what that Hannah Spencer was saying at a protest in Manchester last week, and someone challenged her to ask if a woman could have a penis, and basically she refused to answer the question. She was asked numerous times, can a woman have a penis? It sounds like a straightforward question to me. It doesn't sound particularly difficult, but for her, she couldn't answer it or wouldn't answer it. And so I did, more for a laugh than anything, I did a little poll on YouTube. I just said, can a woman have a penis? It got 219 votes. 6% said yes, a woman can have a penis, and 94% said no, a woman can't have a penis. So at least amongst the followers or viewers of my channel, at least people are pretty sure that a woman can't have a penis, which I'm glad to see. We've got majority sensible people on here. She's a dangerous idiot, that Hannah Spencer. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. On the subject of that, I've actually made a complaint because I did a video about it, and someone said, I assume you've complained to Ofcom. So I went to complain to Ofcom, but you're not actually meant to complain to Ofcom. You're supposed to complain to the organisation first. So all that wasn't about me. It was just poor reporting. I complained to the BBC about it, and I've got a response. I'll just say the complaint. I've titled it "Completely Twisted Facts to Promote an Agenda. I'm writing to express my concern about an article published on your website, which, in my view, omits several important facts and presents a biased account of recent events. Firstly, the article fails to address that Spencer's speech at the protest appeared to endorse political violence, intimidation, and the suppression of free speech. For example, she stated, "We showed Greater Manchester at its finest, and we kicked out people who were here to stir hatred," referring to an attack on a Britain First march 2 weeks prior. It is important to clarify that her supporters do not have the authority to decide who may or may not protest in Manchester or anywhere else. This responsibility lies solely with the police, who determine if any laws have been broken and take appropriate action. Secondly, the article seems to imply that violence was initiated by her opponents, yet Video evidence shows her side becoming aggressive, including an incident where a woman was punched by one of her supporters. Additionally, the article quoted a Green Party spokesperson claiming that attempts were made to silence Spencer, but footage from the event clearly shows her speech proceeding without disruption and people trying to engage with her afterwards, asking questions rather than trying to silence her. Furthermore, the article does not make clear whether any representatives from her opposition were contacted for comment, which raises concerns about the balance and fairness of the coverage. Overall, I feel the article portrays the aggressors as victims, which risks encouraging further violent actions by far-left groups in the future. I urge the BBC to review and correct the article to ensure it provides a more accurate and balanced account of the events. I don't expect to get any response from that, or I'll get some sort of response from it, but it'd be a fob off rather than a proper response. But these people do need to be held to account because they are encouraging violence. I'm obviously not a Britain First supporter, but they have got a right to protest. And then again, the people that opposed Hannah Spencer and her chums from Stand Up to Racism last Sunday, it didn't look to me like they were violent. They did a few things that I wouldn't recommend doing, but they weren't at all violent. And it was, from what I've seen, it was all her side that were causing all the problems and making out to be the victims. And by portraying them as the victims rather than the aggressors, it encourages them to behave in a similar way and other people to behave the same as well. So they do need to be held to account for these things, especially when the BBC is being sued by Donald Trump at the moment. So hopefully that organisation, it'll be the end of them fairly soon. The complaint, yeah. Also, while we're on the topic of the BBC, I might as well get the BBC stuff out of the way now. And they're looking to put the TV license up to £180 a year. I don't know if people are aware of that already, but can you guess what date that starts on? April Fool's Day, exactly. The 1st of April, they're looking to charge people more money to watch all the rubbish that they put on throughout the year. People probably remember years ago, people used to complain and the newspapers used to complain about the amount of repeats shown over Christmas. But nowadays, the repeats are the best things on TV and people actually look forward to the repeats rather than complaining about them, because virtually everything made these days is a load of rubbish. I was looking up some statistics on the TV licenses, and apparently the amount of TV licenses in the UK peaked in 2018 with 27.5 million TV licenses. Oh, sorry. There were 27.5 million homes at the time, and 26.2 million had TV licenses. I'm just going to find, I did have something up here. Sorry, I'm just finding something. That's it. Yeah. In 2018, there were 27.5 million houses, or homes, should I say, households, and 26.2 million people had TV licenses. So there were 1.3 million unlicensed households. Fast forward to now, there's now 29.3 million households, an increase of 1.8 million. And it's dropped down to 23.5 million TV licenses, a decrease of 2.7 million. So there's now 5.8 million households without TV licenses, an increase of 4.5 million. So obviously, a number of things factor into that. Obviously, streaming services have become far more popular since 2018. And I haven't had a TV license since long before that. But Yeah, so there's that factor. There's the factor that people are annoyed with how biased the BBC is, or even just the low quality of their programs. And then there's also the amount of foreigners where they probably just don't bother getting one and just say that they didn't know that they needed one if they get caught. But yeah, so hopefully that's another nail in the coffin of the BBC, as well as them putting up the price of it. Apparently, they still do black and white licenses. I don't know the actual cost of them. I might have to look that up, but I won't even bother watching that anyway. So yeah, the BBC seem to be struggling, and hopefully they continue to struggle. It needs remodeling, really. There's no reason in today's with technology into today with the need for a TV license, because they could issue all the services the BBC offer through streaming services, and then either charge for it or put adverts on there, depending. They could probably do both. But the fact is, it's a tax. They want to charge people for, and apparently it is actually recognised as a tax now. I didn't realise that, but it has been for a few years now. Although they still call it the TV license, it is now recognised as a tax, which is what it is, because they're charging you without giving you any service. They're charging you to use Channel 4 and ITV and things like that. If it was purely for BBC, if it was purely to watch the BBC, it'd be understandable, but it's not. They're charging you to watch Sky and cable and things like that as well. So yeah. Also, I put a video up, was it yesterday or the day before, about BBC Comic Relief. That's coming a week tomorrow. They're going to be trying to rip people off, trying to raise money. And again, that's an advertisement. When they put things like that on there and they're asking people for money, that's advertising. It's not entertainment, or some of it might be entertainment, but it's like they're asking people for money, which in my opinion is trying to raise funds through other things other than the TV license. Apparently a quarter of the money from that goes on admin rather than going to the supposed worthy causes. Most of the supposed worthy causes aren't worthy causes. And like I advise for children in need as well, some of the causes might be worthwhile. So if anyone does watch it, I won't be watching it, but if anyone does watch it and sees any worthy causes on there, write them down. And if you want to give them money, give money directly. They get a bigger share of the money, because it won't go on all these, on admin and all these unworthy charities. And it's a better way to do it, not to give anything to the BBC. Even if someone supports all these refugee charities, I don't know why they would, but if they gave it to them direct, then money wouldn't be going to the BBC. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do that. But yeah, hopefully it'll be the end of the BBC as we know it fairly soon. It'd be a terrible thing if it completely fell apart, but because it's worth money to the taxpayer. The British government or taxpayer own the BBC, and it's got to be worth billions of pounds. So really it should be sold off, broken up and sold off as separate channels and archives and things like that. And money should go back to the taxpayer for that. And then if anyone wants to carry on watching things, like a lot of the archive programs, I used to love watching Fools and Horses, Citizen Smith. I have to try and remember now. Porridge. I can't remember what's on BBC and ITV. I know they're all BBC ones. But they used to make good programs years ago. Obviously, their priorities have changed and they no longer want to make them programs. But it's good to have. It'd be good to have somewhere that showed all the archive programs. I know they show it on one of the cable channels. I remember they used to be UK Gold years ago. I can't remember what they are now, but that show older programs. But they miss out certain episodes of Fools and Horses, and they even sort of dub or bleep things out on some of it. I've watched it and I thought, I'm sure Del Boy didn't say that before, and I've gone and sorted out the DVD, and he says. And he says something completely different and more funny in the original one. Even simple references to things like packy shops and things like that are bleeped out, so or removed. So people are better off watching programs like that on DVD or video or things like that. And if a streaming service became available, then people could watch those programs again without having to worry about the BBC or anyone censoring them. So, in my opinion, the best asset that the BBC's got is its archives. So I think that's about it on the BBC/TV licensing thing. I'm gonna go through the comments now to catch up, because what I've done in the past is I've caught up with all the comments at the end, and then when I edit it for the podcast, it lands up being all over the place. So right, we're there. That's the beginning. Oh, that's about the can women have a penis? It's one thing Trump done I support, when he said there's only two sexes, what most normal people have known for thousands of years. Yep. Which animals know it and everything, don't they? It's just, I can't think how anyone could not know that. Even the perverts themselves must know that what they're saying isn't correct. I think they just do it to be awkward. They try and outdo each other. Years ago, people used to just be homosexual or whatever, and then that was sort of weird enough for them. They got a load of attention for that. And then when that kind of got normalized, I know it's not normal, but it kind of got normalized, then they wanted to go one better and be transgender or furries or various other things like that. Is that the Britain First demo? I think that was the demo. Bob was battered by lefties. He's only a kid. Is that young Bob? Yeah, I think he's about 17 or something, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah. And it shows what cowards are. They cry like anything if someone even brushes past them, let alone punching someone and smashing their camera and things like that. Yeah. Biased reporting at its finest from the BBC. Since when has a media scrum been considered assault? I assume that's when they were trying to question Hannah Spencer. Yeah. I don't see why she didn't just answer them. I would have said, no, a woman can't have a penis. But if she thinks differently, she could have answered yes. Or she could have said, I don't know, I'm not very good at biology or science or something like that. But she just deliberately, she just avoided the question. Like I said, she isn't legally bound to answer the questions, but she shouldn't complain about it, or people on her behalf shouldn't complain about it, just being asked a few questions. I wouldn't watch the BBC for free. Yeah. 180 quid for bias. I'll pass on that. Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you did, like years ago, when there was only 3 channels or 2 channels before that, you'd watch quite a bit of it because that was all that was on. And then as people got video recorders, as you got Channel 4, Channel 5, and then Sky and cable, and then eventually streaming, you gradually, even without deliberately not watching it, gradually you'd watch less and less of it. So it's ridiculous to be charging that kind of money. That's more than most people earn in a day after tax. So why should someone go and work a whole day, including getting there and back, just to pay for a TV license to hardly watch anything? Well, hardly watch any BBC. Cancelled mine years ago. I won't fund them. And that's another good point. The paedophile statue that's still up there. There's a creepy old man with his hands around a young child who's naked, and it's sickening. And it was actually made by or designed by someone who was a paedophile themselves. And other places, churches had statues by him, and they took them down when they found out what he was about. But the BBC's left it up. And why is it? It's meant to be. Is it from the Odyssey or something? But it's the actual play that it's from has got nothing to do with an old man touching a naked child. It's a completely twisted take on it. So it is sickening that is there, and that would be removed. I don't know if they still got things about Jimmy Savile up all over the place, but I think they've sort of distanced themselves from him now. They should have. Well, I say they should have distanced themselves from him sooner. They should have got him done for being a paedophile. He was obviously covered up by a lot of people. From what I've heard, it was common knowledge about Jimmy Savile. So it is sickening, that organisation. Is that one banned from commenting? I don't know what that is. Didn't think you still got black and white TVs. I don't know. Assume you must be able to get them from somewhere, because they do a black and white. They do a black and white license, and from what I remember, I haven't looked at it for years, but it was like a lot cheaper than the normal one. I think while the normal one was £150 years ago, it was, or £145. I think it was like £35 or £40, something like that. So I don't know. I don't even know if it's gone up. But the amount of people that have one is down to like a few thousand people, I think, have got black and white TV licenses. So I assume you probably can still get a black and white TV somewhere, because that's another thing as well. If someone's colorblind, then why should they pay for a full TV license when they do a black and white one? Or I don't know if you can have the color removed from a TV. I would have thought, don't quote me on this if anyone gets caught, but I would have thought if you got a black and white TV license, that would stop them from coming and investigating you. I think on here I don't put all the comments up because a lot of them are similar, and I go through some of them, so I'm not deliberately offending anyone by not putting any comments up. Also, I've noticed on actual videos, once they're uploaded to YouTube, quite often it tells me that I've got 8 comments on there, and I look and I can only see 4 or 5. I can only read 4 or 5 of them. So comments do go missing. Yeah, like I said, there's quite a few comments on here, so I don't put all of them up, and I apologise to anyone that I miss out. I'm not doing it to deliberately be offensive or any favoritism or anything like that. Although I try to make sure I put Shazzy's ones up so I don't get in trouble when I go back downstairs. Why would anyone choose to watch the BBC? It's just one long United Colours of Benetton advert. Yep. Yep. Defund the Pinko BBC. Look at the state. You look at the statue by that pervert Eric Gill on the front of the building. Disgusting organisation. That's the name, Eric Gill. I was trying to remember that earlier. Yeah, it used to be great British comedy. Most is politically incorrect and censored, etc. The Office was probably the last good comedy. That was 20 years ago. Yeah, I never really watched The Office. I'd already stopped watching the BBC by then. I've seen some of them, and I know a lot of people do like it. See, there's Shaz on there. Contact was a very good BBC film about the British Army on the border of Northern Ireland. It's on YouTube, worth a look. I don't know how long ago that was, but I know the BBC sort of lost their stomach over the IRA when the IRA bombed the BBC. I think they drove a taxi to outside of the White City BBC and blew that up. That unnerved a lot of them. I'm just checking to see if there's any more comments on the BBC before on to help someone question me. That's assault. All public servants, yep. That'd be Hannah Spencer, yeah. Yep. Never in a million years would I ever endorse the BBC, yep. Johnny Rotten outed Savile in 78 and got a lifetime ban from the Beeb, yep. Have they not taken Jimmy Savile's headstone away as well? Yeah, I think they have, yeah. I'm not racist. I've got a colour TV. Can't believe people used... Oh, I'll click on it first. Can't believe people used to watch snooker on a black and white TV. Yeah. I suppose you can still see a lot of the... You can still probably guess a lot of the colours from the shades of them. But yeah, it must have been a lot harder to watch. Is that the current prices? I assumed it must be something like that. £58.50 for a black and white license. I did toy with the idea of getting something like that, but like someone said earlier, I don't think you can probably buy an actual TV that's black and white anymore. Because sometimes just for like keeping up to date with information, but you're probably better off using a radio for something like that rather than that. And that's it. Just over 7,000 black and white licenses. Yep. I've even tried that. I've seen that with a lot of channels, mate, not just yours. Sometimes you have to click all comments. Yeah, I've done that, and still sometimes when I'm on the studio side of YouTube and it says I've got 10 things, even pressing all comments, sometimes it's still only 5 or 6 that I can find. And I've gone through all my settings to make sure that there shouldn't be any moderation on there, but still some of them don't get through. I assume YouTube must have its own standard of moderation that you can't allow on there, or else they just ban the channel. But put you in the comments, Tony. You'd make Britain great again. Yep, hopefully. Like I was saying previously, that there's nobody who represents white people in Parliament. There's people that represent blacks, Asians, Muslims, Jews, homosexuals. There's even some, the closest you get is some that represent Christians. But nobody, not Nigel Farage or Rupert Lowe or anyone, would self-identify as a white activist. There's not one of them in Parliament. Probably the last one would have been Enoch Powell. Contact was screened early to mid 80s. All right. Yep. So, has anyone got anything else on the BBC before we go any further? No, I haven't seen that. No, an MP complained about her essay, and she was against the grooming gang scandal as well. No, I didn't know about that one. I didn't know that either. There's a good second Eric Gill statue inside same BBC building. No, I didn't know about that. Where are we now? Let's carry on going down there. Yep, not since Enoch Powell. No. Maybe should run as a candidate for the DUP. The DUP aren't that popular at the moment out here. I think they mainly get in because just to stop Sinn Féin, I think, a lot of the time. But they're considered sellouts over the Windsor framework. So, plus, I wouldn't stand for them, and they wouldn't have me either. I wouldn't have thought. All right, I think that's it. Caught up with on the BBC thing. So next, I was going to speak briefly about. I only saw this just before I came on air, and that's about the Green Party leader and Greater London Assembly member Zach Polansky, and apparently he's misled public about apology for breast enlargement claims. Although this story is an old story, it's a bit more has come to light of it recently because he claimed that he apologised straight away. It's got here, Zach Polansky claims that he immediately apologised for saying he could enlarge women's breasts through hypnotherapy has been undermined by the BBC. The Green Party leader alleged that he apologised in an interview with the broadcaster a day after offering to enlarge a Sun journalist's breasts in 2013. But on Wednesday, the BBC said it could not find any evidence that interview took place. Instead, they said Mr. Polansky spoke to BBC Humberside 6 days after the Sun article was published, in which he appeared to stand by his claim, saying the evidence is growing. Mr. Polansky, who was a hypnotherapist before entering politics, has also claimed he was misrepresented and never believed hypnotherapy was possible. In the article, we offered the reporter hypnosis to increase her cup size at a Harley Street consulting room, which she claimed worked. Mr. Polansky said he apologised during the BBC interview on the 12th of June, which the broadcaster was unable to locate. So it's it's crazy to think that somebody's actually leading a political party in Britain, a mainstream political party, or supposedly mainstream political party like the Green Party, and he's tried to sell people breast enlargements by hypnosis. Yeah, I don't know if perhaps he might go on and give people sex changes by hypnosis or something like that. And perhaps that's the reason why he's so popular in the Green Party. Perhaps a lot of Green Party activists and candidates would like breast enlargements, and that's not the women, by the way. But yeah, I think the guy is absolutely crazy, and it goes to show he's got no respect for the truth. He's got nothing binds him to telling the truth at all. I know, obviously, I might sound a bit naive saying that because so many politicians are the same, but it seems to be getting even worse nowadays with people like Keir Starmer and him that will just basically they lie about something that everyone's seen with their own eyes. Around just before Christmas or around Christmas time, Polanski went out to visit the people smugglers out in Calais, and he spoke about it afterwards, and he said it was terrible, them sleeping in poorly equipped tents in sub-zero temperatures and this, that, and the other. And I checked the weather forecast or the actual weather from Calais while he was there, and it didn't drop below zero once. He just made it up. They'll even lie about the weather. I suppose that's the main component of the Green Party is to lie about the weather. But it seems absolutely ridiculous to claim that there was sub-zero, that they were sleeping in sub-zero temperatures when the temperatures didn't even go that low, unless Polanski and his weirdo mates were stuffing them in chest freezers or something like that. I don't think any of them were sleeping in sub-zero conditions. He's literally no sense of reality. Hopefully that's Polanski and not me she's talking about there. Yep, I don't believe that. Polanski is extremely radical compared to anyone in the Labour Party. Yeah, because have you seen that all the drugs that they want to basically legalise? Don't know if I'm slightly wrong. There might be a few exemptions, but they want to legalise all drugs, heroin, crack, all sorts of things like that. And it's one thing saying that it'll keep things under control and stop it being sold to children and things like that, but it won't, because the drug deal, if you just allow the drug dealers to carry on selling it to children, or 18-year-olds to buy it and sell it on to children to fund their own habit. And then if you bring it into sort of semi-responsible sort of dealership and have registered shops selling it, people will still be buying it and selling it on to kids. And if you can't intercept it coming into the country and you can't arrest people for walking down the road with it, then it's going to make it a lot easier to get into the hands of kids. And even when they've got these shooting up galleries, you've got giving out needles. It causes needles to be left lying around places, and innocent people could prick themselves on a needle or anything like that. And even if someone does choose to do heroin and crack, they quite often become unable to, as well as being a burden on the health service, they struggle to contribute to society. They can't maintain proper jobs and things. I know a lot of musicians do that kind of stuff for years, but they're normally getting dealt with by doctors quite regularly, and being a musician's different to doing a proper job. Don't like the Tories, but the amount of abuse they get at their conference is way worse than Hannah the Spanner. Yeah. Well, that's it, exactly. Like she was celebrating the attack on Britain First, and then complaining that people asked her questions. They see that they've got a right to be violent. If someone whose opinion they disagree with is having a protest or something like that, they see that they've got a right, or their supporters, because most of the time they wouldn't do anything themselves, but their supporters have got a right to physically attack people. It's not just the Green Party, it's a lot of people within the Labour Party and even some of the Conservative Party would celebrate the Battle of Cable Street, the Battle of Lewisham. I shouldn't even call them battles really, because it's hardly a war. It was just a load of people behaving in an absolutely disgusting manner that they should be ashamed of. They celebrate people rolling marbles under police horses and assaulting the police, because it's usually the police that gets the brunt of it. I know obviously some of our people have been attacked and seriously injured and even killed, but most of the time on these protests, when the far left get violent, they get violent with the police. He's certainly radical. They completely rigged the vote to win the seat in Manchester. Yep. The left scrape any barrel for votes. With worse weather in Ulster. Yep. They want to legalise drugs and basically give you like a prescription. And this argument was, at least you would know what is in it when we give it to you. I can see the argument for that, but it's still not a good thing. People need to get clean, don't they? If they've got a drug problem, they should seek help in getting clean rather than being given it on a prescription. And obviously, a lot of people, depending on what their job is or something like that, might choose to still buy it from backstreet dealers. So some of them might be getting it from prescriptions and then even lacing it with other things and stuff like that. And even people that are genuinely ill and are on prescribed medicine, like genuine, not recreational drugs. A lot of the time, if you're on being treated for more than one thing, they can affect each other, and it makes it more difficult for a doctor to treat someone. So if someone's doing heroin and then they get cancer or have a heart attack or whatever, and they need to start taking other medication, I would have thought that it would play up with that. Yeah, this is something that I've said many times before as well. The only thing is taking drugs away from dealers. What crime will they then do next? Something more extreme, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Because it's highly unlikely, maybe a few of them are near retirement age might, but it's hardly likely that drug dealers are just going to pack it in and decide to become contributing members of society because they can't drug deal anymore. They're going to move on to other crimes. It's like they brag about the facts that violent crimes down in London apparently and other places, but that's because it's open season on shoplifting. People can just go and feed things without actually having to get violent. So it may look like a good thing because not as many people are being hurt, but in the long run, either prices keep going up to fund the shoplifting, or it will have to be dealt with at some stage. And the longer you leave it, the harder that is. So it's just kicking the can down the road, and the violent problem is still there, but it's just not as obvious at the moment. Getting the smackhead vote. So yeah, I'd assume they'd have to do that through the postal votes, wouldn't they? They'd have to go around finding out where they live and fill out the form for them, which I'm sure they probably do. I wonder how many planning applications will now get approved in Gorton, Manchester now, and whatever else the community have been offered. Yep. Well, that's it with the Green Party as well. They want to just concrete over our green and pleasant land to build homes for unlimited immigrants. They want to throw open the doors and let in as many, or almost as many people who, basically anyone who's claiming asylum, they want to let in. And they also want to make it easier to get like normal like work visas and things like that. If you think Keir Starmer's a nutcase, wait until, well, I say wait until it's not going to happen, but if they got in, it'd be 100 times worse. Well, it probably can't get 100 times worse, but it'd be twice as bad. Dirty game politics, yeah. They should get clean rather than take the drug in the first place, yeah. You can be proud of anything apart from being British. That's how bad we've fallen, yeah. Is the NF growing in numbers in Northern Ireland? We're getting a few more members because we don't stand in elections out here at the moment. There's not that much opportunity for growth. I think we're growing a bit more on the mainland. I'm making acquaintances and getting to know people out here, so that's a good thing as well. Yep. The English, I would say, are the most attacked, taking historical characters off the money now. Yep. Yeah, they're trying to rewrite history. They want to try and pretend that there's always been blacks here and we've always been dependent on them and a load of rubbish like that we know isn't true. But yeah, we all pay for the shoplifting that puts prices up, makes stolen stuff. Yep. They have no right to call themselves Greens as they don't give a damn about preserving our countryside. Well, it's kind of a running joke, isn't it, with the mainstream political parties? You've got the Green Party that want to concrete over our green and pleasant land. You've got the Conservatives that don't want to conserve anything. And then you've got the Labour Party that couldn't care less about the working class. So that's three of the main political parties. You've got the Liberal Democrats as well. I don't really think they're that relevant at the moment, but the other three, they all do completely the opposite to what their name suggests. It reminds me of American car dealers where you've got like Honest Dave's Auto Shop or whatever it's called, and the person's a complete, like you see on TV programs, and the person's a complete crook, but they call their business honest to try and trick people. I still can't believe there are graveyards in the UK which get tarmacked over. Yeah. To be fair, I think that has not so much tarmac, but I think they have eventually gone over graveyards. It's meant to be like, I think something like 100 years after the last person's buried there. But obviously, you got King Richard landed up under a car park, didn't he? And he was a monarch. They like to say Cheddar Man was dark skinned, but that was never actually said by the scientists, was it? It was just something that got twisted by the media. I think they said they couldn't tell his pigmentation from the DNA. Later they could, and they said that he wasn't, but at the time they couldn't. And then people just decided to make out that he was dark anyway. Also, I think I'm obviously not a qualified scientist, but I would have thought that people prior to when people started wearing clothes, when people like thousands of years ago, when people were outside a lot more, and like I said before, people started wearing clothes, people would have been darker skinned in anyway because you would have been exposed to the sun a lot more. So I would have thought people probably became lighter skinned once they started wearing clothes. I don't know whether that was like 15 or 20,000 years ago, whenever that happened. Yeah, I would say houses get approved very fast now. In farmers' fields in villages, since Starmer said he was going to relax the laws. Yep. Again, it's the opposite. They talk about the environment. In fact, I'm going to start looking into. I want to do a couple of videos on the environment. I've been thinking about that for a while because you've got all these hypocrites who want to tax us to death, because that's what it is basically. It's an excuse to try and make taxes popular, push all these climate change things in schools and things like that, and then they basically just tax us more. And they use the climate change to justify it. And the Greens want to use supposed climate change to justify foreign aid. They want to give two different lots of foreign aid. They want to increase the current foreign aid, but then they want to bring in a second lot of foreign aid called, I think it's climate reparations or something like that, and give even more money to these countries that are overpopulated, so that they can carry on overpopulating and blame us for the fact that it rains and gets sunny and things like that. So it's an absolute joke. And then they want to concrete over something, and that's what causes flooding. When you concrete over things, you do away with natural soak away, and you flood places. So yeah, they don't care about the environment. They bang on about the environment, but they don't care about it. They don't care about it really. And also with Starmer at the moment, he hasn't got any actual proper opposition in Parliament. You've got the war on Iran. Farage wants to go further, so he's no opposition to that. And you've got Kimi Badenoch, who's basically, in my opinion, is a moron. I was watching her on Prime Minister's Question Time yesterday, and she didn't seem to have a clue about what was going on. What was it she asked? She asked, is it the right time to be putting up fuel duty with everything that's going on in Iran and the costs of it? And Starmer just said, well, we're not putting up fuel duty because they're not putting it up for 6 months. So she could have. It's not even a matter of wording the question better. It's a stupid thing to say about trying to make out that they're putting up fuel duty now when it's in September, in 6 months' time, that they're supposedly putting it up. But he said that they will reevaluate the situation. I'm not trying to defend Starmer too much here because I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. But the fact is that she's got an opportunity there as leader of the opposition to be asking questions and completely failed to do it and wasted the opportunity. And I don't think there's been a proper leader of the opposition probably since David Cameron. And again, he was no champion of the people. But you'll end up with useless prime ministers. I say useless, they're useful for themselves, but they're not any use to us. And there's no real opposition because nobody is holding them to account. You've got people like you've had people like Ed Miliband and Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer, and they're just not held to account when they're just turning up trying to ask stupid questions. And like I said, when Starmer turned it round on her and said about how she was supporting the war, she wanted us to be fully involved in the war in Iran that's caused the problems with the fuel prices in the first place. She started saying about how military personnel's families are worried about fuel prices as well. I'm sure that they're more worried about their loved ones getting sent off to another war that's got nothing to do with us more than they are fuel prices. They probably are slightly worried about fuel prices, but I don't think that'd be a top priority compared to their loved ones getting killed for no reason. But they couldn't care less about our culture, our Britain. I wonder why we all serve to protect GB and have it all given away. Yeah, exactly. Regards banking. If the majority of the pop withdrew their money from banks, how would this affect the economy? Is it worthwhile? It's hard to say, really, because a lot of people haven't got money to withdraw in the first place. And then also you've got, if people are keeping a lot of cash around, the chances of either getting murdered for it or burgled or whatever like that, you do sort of leave yourself open. I get the sentiment as well that that we shouldn't be trusting banks and things, and the interest rate you get is next to nothing. Although they charge high interest rates, they don't really give a lot when you've got money in there. So there is that incentive there. But I personally wouldn't like to keep a lot of cash around the house, because you wouldn't even be covered on your house insurance, would you, if someone broke in and stole 100 grand or something, unless you've worded it in your home insurance that you've got that kind of money. I suppose you'd have to have a safe, really, or several safes if you had a lot of money kicking around. Hi, Tony. What's your opinion on the Daily Agenda? Is this someone you could work with? It seems you're on the same beliefs mostly. Yeah, I watched some of his videos, and I like some of what he says. I think he can be sort of too argumentative with people. I can work with anyone. I say with anyone, with almost anyone. So I'm prepared to work with the Daily Agenda or anyone like that. I think it can be a bit counterproductive when he's sort of digging out a lot of people on his channel. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, whether he's got good reason to do that or not. I try to keep my channel as positive as possible. Even people like Tommy Robinson, I try not to dig out on here too much. I do from time to time because it needs to be said, but it's best not to go on too much about that. But yeah, I'm prepared to work with the Daily Agenda or almost anyone else as well. $3 billion a day America spending on this war. It's sick. They say they're going to send troops in now. Yep. And again, it's making money for the rich. It's difficult to say with Trump, because obviously I supported Trump before he was elected. Not living out there, obviously I couldn't vote for him. But I believe that it was going to happen either way. The way Biden behaved after the October the 7th attack, making out that he'd seen videos of babies having their throats cut when it never even happened. I think this all still would be going on, whoever had won the last few presidential elections in America. So it's a matter of controlled opposition. The same people control both parties in America and control the main parties in Britain, which is why you get things like that going on. I know they've released millions of barrels of oil now. Is it sent at 40 million barrels, 40 billion barrels of oil, or whatever it is? Because that's another thing America tends to do, and other countries as well. When they're building up their stocks of oil, when the price is low, they buy loads of it, and then when the price is high, which in some respect controls fuel price, but in another respect makes profit, because those barrels that are getting sold for over $100 a barrel now, I don't know what they would have been buying them at, probably like $60 or $70 a barrel. So so that they make a big profit on things like that. Plus, the American firms and the Israeli firms manufacture a lot of the weapons that are being used. So the way I see these wars is some kind of sick money laundering operation where presidents and prime ministers can't just take billions of pounds or billions of dollars and give it to their friends, but they can start wars, give their friends inside information. I'm not saying whether Trump's done this, but there's probably people in the American administration that have been doing it. And they give inside information for trading. There's a lot of money to be made on wars by having inside information trading, and then also the manufacture of weapons. That's a massive business, ridiculous amounts of money. A lot of these manufacturers make. I was going to look into the cost of some of the missiles fired by the F-35s, because I saw a program or a YouTube video, and they were talking about how the drones that are getting shot down, the Iranian drones that are getting shot down by the F-35s, it costs more to shoot them down than it does to manufacture them. So you get what happened in Afghanistan in the 80s with the Russians, where the Americans were selling rocket launchers to play a numbers game with them. A $5,000 rocket launcher had something like a 50-50 chance of taking out a $5 million Russian helicopter. So for $10,000, the price of 2 rockets, they could take out a $5 million helicopter. So they just gave the Afghanis as many of them as they could. And then also before that, you had in Vietnam, where the Russians were supplying the Vietnamese with surface-to-air missiles there, and were taking out American planes and helicopters with that. So you tend to get that when wars go on. So, but the whole time it's costing, most importantly, lives, and then secondly, the finances of taxpayers in various different countries. People are making a lot of that money. There's a lot of profit to be made out of the weapons. People do get rich out. They say there's no winners in wars. It's only who loses by the most. But the people manufacturing the weapons, and they're the ones who are winning the wars, who are making the profit. Because there's no, from what I've seen, there's no end game for Trump. He's got no proper, or the Americans should I say, they've got no proper mission of what they're actually trying to accomplish. And it's been repeated time and time again. You've had Iraq and Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, all these different countries where the people running them aren't nice people, or weren't nice people, and probably deserved what happened to them. But there was no one there to take over and stabilize the country. There was no long-term plan for sorting things out. So it should have been left alone. I'm pretty convinced. I've got no proof of it, but just from what generally goes on in the world, that most of these protests in Iran prior to the war actually breaking out were deliberately agitated by the West, whether that was MI6, whether that was the CIA, whether that was Mossad, whether it was all of them. It's most probably been done to try and, as a pretext, to go to war and attack Iran. So is the London Forum still going, or did it end years ago? It ended years ago, I think. Well, as far as I'm aware, it did. I don't know if there's any plans to restart it, but I don't think there's been any meetings for years. I think Hope Not Hate ruined that when they, and again, it was by sabotage. They didn't expose any wrongdoing or anything like that, any of the things they claim their organisation does. What they did is they sent that Patrick Hermanson in there, and I don't know if he did steal the membership list, but he's meant to have stolen the membership list, and obviously that gives people cold feet to not want to go it. Jez Turner, who used to run the the London Forum. He landed up going to prison over a free speech issue, a protest, and he was under a lot of restrictions when he first came out, and then there was the COVID thing after that, or the lockdown, should I say, not COVID. So I don't think it ever really started up after that. Also, it's really hard to get venues in London now. I've known we've had trouble getting them, and I know other organisations that have as well. So it's very difficult to get going in London. Trump was worst of two evils, I think, but people didn't vote for this. Yep, yeah. APEC gave Trump 400 million for his campaign. Yeah. And that's what needs sorting out as well, both in Britain and in America, is foreign funding of campaigning. I know they've started talking. It's probably one of the good things about reform coming about, the fact that the Labour Party and others are willing to address the problem of foreigners investing and donating to political campaigns in the UK. They weren't complaining when they were getting the money, but now someone else is getting the money. They're complaining about it, and it's wrong when Farage gets the money. It's wrong when the Labour Party get the money. It's wrong when Trump gets the money, and it's buying political influence. Two of the biggest lots that I can think of in America are the Israelis and the Irish, where if you the Republic of Ireland has got virtually no military. They have got a military, but I think they spend less than, I think around 0.1% or something of their GDP. I could be wrong with that, but it's something like that on defence. And then so basically, when there's some sort of international situation, we shouldn't be getting involved in this anyway. But even things like stopping people smugglers in the Mediterranean and things like that, they've got no military to help out with that. And they can, by saving that money, they can undercut business rates and get companies to base themselves in the Republic of Ireland. But then with all that money they've saved as well, they've got influence. It's probably not the Irish government doing it, but it's Irish people in America donate to both political parties there to gain influence and support from America. And Israel does the same thing there, with Jewish donors give money to both parties out there to gain political influence. And if you look how much something like an F-35 fighter or an aircraft carrier, if you look at like over £1 billion for an aircraft carrier, how much political influence can you buy for that same amount of money? So yeah, I think the entire electoral system in both Britain and America needs completely overthrowing. Or overhauling, should I say. How do you not get nervous when confronting lefties when you're on your own? And there's a lot of them. I just did similar today at the anti-Farage protest in Swindon, and he was holding. I just did similar today at an anti-Farage protest in Swindon, and he was holding an event here. One of the reasons I don't get nervous is I'm more concentrating on what I'm saying and keeping an eye on them, what they're doing. I'm probably more nervous beforehand than I am actually doing it, and also the situations are usually quite easy to read. Most of them aren't going to do anything. A lot of them are, I don't know, are elderly or soft student types. I know there used to be a lot of like Red Action and people like that were pretty hard years ago. I don't think that exists to that same degree anymore. But yeah, usually I read the situation and I know there's obviously a chance something could happen, but there's not that much of a chance. And like I said, I'm busy thinking about what I'm going to say and filming, and I've got a lot of things on my mind, so I don't tend to get nervous then, but I'm probably more nervous beforehand. The equipment left behind in Afghanistan is useless because they can't get replacement parts. When broke, the Taliban sold the equipment on. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Another thing I was thinking about as well was like they had like Apache helicopters and things like that were left behind. And it must be difficult enough to fly an ordinary helicopter without flying an Apache and operating the weapon systems. So I would have thought they've probably got a lot of rifles and rocket launchers and things like that they can use, grenades and stuff. But the more sophisticated equipment, yeah, I would have thought they would have had to sell it. I'm going to be calling it a day pretty soon. I'm just going. I've got behind with the comments again there, haven't I? Assume that's about Trump. He's doing the bidding of the small hats, Trump. Yeah. The only people that suffer are the squaddies, the civvies that get caught in the middle, and their families' collateral damage. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be calling it a day in a minute. I apologise for all the people that I haven't put their comments up, but there's been a lot of comments. So I've tried to put up quite a few of them, and I apologise for any that I haven't put up. So yeah, I'll be calling it a day, and I'm just quickly checking over some more questions there. If you had Russia or China supporting someone, there'd be uproar. I think they have been. I think China has been anyway. And then Farage is accused of being supported by Russia. I know there was complaints about George Galloway earning money off Russia today. I think that's too kind there. Tony has nerves of steel. Even Nick Lies couldn't intimidate him. Although Nick Lies or Nick Loles, whatever we call him, he isn't the most intimidating of people. So yeah, it's not a matter of having nerves of steel. It's a matter of I sort of try and I sort of time it reasonably well. I know that they're less likely to kick off at their own events than they are our events, so they're easier to approach there. And I do it out in the open so that I know things are less likely to happen there. And I always make sure that I'm filming it so that if it does kick off, I'm less likely to get arrested for it. I'm not being bad, but poor Bob was a soft target. They are okay attacking kids, but that's about it. Yep. And also, they're a lot tougher when they're the other side of the place. The amount of times I've seen them being really aggressive, the other side of the place. And I personally, and most people, haven't had that problem with them when there's no police there. Paul Sillett's another one. Is scream his mouth off. He'd give it all the sticking his chest out and strutting up and down, trying to pretend he's a silverback gorilla. And when he's the other side of the place. But then when you go up to him and there's no police about, and all he does is sulk. If he's got his mates with him, all they do is sulk. Afghani and Apache, he would crash it. That'd be your that if you want a YouTube video to go viral, that's what you want to be filming, that, don't you? That the first flights of the Afghani army air wing or air corps, should I say? When he's in the zone, they just can't touch him. Mentally, I find that hilarious. Always a pleasure. Thursday nights, Tone. Hope you and everyone has a good weekend. Take care. Thanks, Jay. Cheers, mate. Yeah, I'll be I'll be in London next week, but I'll still do the live. And yeah, I'll be in because also the day after that is Liron Velleman on the 20th. He'll be in court for his sentencing. I've got to phone the court the day before to find out, because Harrow Crown Court are using other courts' facilities. So although it's Harrow Crown Court doing the sentencing, they'll be doing it at a different court. So I need to phone them up next Thursday to find out which court that's actually at. I'll probably get all the way over to London and find out they're doing it in Belfast, but but I'll be going along to that anyway. So we'll find out what happens with that. But yeah, so it'll be the same time next week, 7:30 on Thursday, and also Sunday. I'll put this out as a podcast. Exactly. So for the Yanks being complaining about the money, wait till the dead kids start coming back. Yep. Take care all. Tomorrow belongs to us. Yeah, Nick Lowles, yeah. He waited till there was a crowd and started announcing you're a fascist. Yeah. And another thing, that's a completely disrespectful way he spoke to that police officer. He went up to the police officer and complained. This is when I approached Nick Lowles in London a couple of years ago. And he went up to the police officer and said, he's in the National Front, he shouldn't be here, or words to that effect. And the police officer politely explained to him that he didn't have the authority because I hadn't been listed as someone not welcome there or whatever. And as soon as he realised he wasn't getting what he wanted, he just completely blanks the police officer. And I found it completely rude. It shouldn't be. I can be rude to police officers sometimes, but when they've overstepped the mark or something, not just because they've said one thing that I don't like, that's entirely not their fault. He just thinks because he's middle class, he can just go up to a police officer and get them to arrest a working class person. Oh, look, there's a rogue, some sort of vagabond or something. Arrest him. But yeah, but his behaviour was absolutely disgusting that day. But it was funny the way he was all nervous when it was just the two of us. And it was never really just the two of us. There was always other people about, just not that many. And then once there was more of a crowd, then he decided to get a bit clever. Sensible filming, at least you have evidence and the cops can't turn it on you. Yeah, again, that's why I prefer to do it on my own as well, because if there's a few of you, although my video would show that it wasn't me that threw the first punch, it wouldn't be clear as to whether any of the people I was with threw the first punch. So it sort of, I find it from a legal sort of point of view a bit safer to be doing it on my own. Or if I did have someone else with me, it'd probably be better off having them stood further back and just sort of filming the whole thing. Afghani Air Division, yep. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the live, Tony. Not easy to sit in front of the camera. Yep. Yeah, I need to start getting people on here with me, really. It's a bit easier when you've got someone with you to bounce things off. But I'm sort of getting used to doing things. Good night, Tony, in chat. I assume that's Nick Lowles. He's a rude person, though. Not surprising, yeah. He thinks he's above everyone. Yep. Yep. I think that's it with the comments now. So, like I said, everyone, I'll be back on next week at 7:30. I'll put this up as a podcast on Sunday at 4 o'clock, and then I'll have some other videos coming up as well. and I'll keep people informed about what's going on. So wonder, would Joe Owens do an interview? I don't know, really. To be fair, I haven't watched any of his videos for quite a while. I used to watch them a few years ago. But yep. Thanks very much, everyone, and take care. It's been a pleasure as always.